the estimated 4 million families in America who have mixed immigration status. So I'm talking about parents who might be here illegally, but the kids are here legally. Your borders are.
You're talking about separation.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are two aspects to this. Your border czar, Tom Homan, said they can be deported together. Correct. Is that the plan?
Well, that way you keep those. Well, I don't want to be breaking up families. So the only way you don't break up the family is you keep them together, and you have to send them all back.
Yeah, I love that he starts off with correct. Yeah, no, get rid of him. I mean, I don't want to separate families, but we're gonna. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna keep them together. We're gonna get them the hell out of here. We're gonna deport them or whatever. And so that's unfortunately what he's doing. And she laid out a great hypothetical that was hardly hypothetical because we know what was going to come, and it's come. So now you have multiple child US citizens being deported, and so thankfully it doesn't look like they're being put into CCOT. So that's good. We don't have any 2-year-old US citizens in CCOT just yet, but we do have more than enough tragedy despite that. So here's some rough sentences. We have 3 children who are US citizens being deported with their mothers last week. One of them is a 4-year-old receiving treatment for metastatic cancer. And I hope that in Honduras, that treatment will be able to continue, and perhaps it will, or perhaps it won't. We'll consider that and we'll worry about that child and their family. Donald Trump is not going to, he's not going to bother his pretty little mind for a second or two worrying about whether the child might die as a result of what he did. But let's give you more details because there are multiple cases of this already rolling in. In one case, a mother was deported with her 2-year-old, while the other involves another mother deported with her 4 and 7-year-olds, okay? All were detained when the women attended routine meetings with officials in Louisiana as part of the Intensive Supervision Appearance Program, or ISAP. So it's a thing where, yes, you don't have your documentation, but you're still, you're meeting up with the authorities. It's all above board. You're on a process perhaps to eventually get documentation or become a citizen or whatever. Or sorry, that's at least what did happen. But as more and more of these stories come out, I can't imagine why anyone would go to those meetings anymore since they're apparently traps. They're tiger traps that you, trying to be a responsible person, fall into, and then they deport you and your family. So look over time for fewer and fewer people to actually show up to those. But here's the case involving the 2-year-old. So only identified in court records as VML, taken into custody by ICE Tuesday with her mother and 11-year-old sister while again attending a routine check-in, being responsible. The judge said the mother was undocumented, but set a hearing for May 16th regarding the child's deportation, noting, quote, "It is illegal and unconstitutional to deport, detain for deportation, or recommend deportation of a US citizen," citing a 2012 deportation case. And I'm glad that the judge wrote that. That'll be an interesting historic document that we can one day look back on. Hey, it seemed like there were laws and a constitution at one point. Of course, the kid was deported. So turns out the judge, I guess, was wrong. The law and the Constitution are, at the end of the day, only worth as much as, I guess, the paper they're printed on and no more. At least when it comes to protecting the rights of this 2-year-old US citizen. The mother in the second case, the mother was detained Thursday after she took her children to an ISAP check-in. Okay, her, by the way, we're getting these details now from her. She's been deported from her attorney, Aaron Hebert. On their arrival, Hebert said she was not allowed to accompany the family to the meeting, so you don't get to have your lawyers there. About 20 to 30 minutes later, Hebert was informed the family had been detained, but officials refused to tell her where they were taken. So not only are they showing up to the meetings they're supposed to show up to, they have an attorney who is blocked, probably because the authorities know they're gonna do something potentially illegal or unconstitutional, so you don't want the lawyer around. And then you send them off somewhere and don't tell the lawyer so they can't even follow up. So you've now been officially disappeared by the regime. That's fun. Hebert later learned after speaking with her client, 2 ICE officers were waiting for the family at the appointment. So it was set up, it was an ambush. Hebert then went to ICE's New Orleans field office where she said she filed a stay of removal she had prepared in advance of her client's meeting, hoping to keep them in the country. Over the course of the day, she repeatedly contacted the office to ask where they were being held, but said she was not given a response. Then early Friday morning, the family was placed on a plane and taken to Honduras, and the attorney says, "My clients were deported within 24 hours of being detained detained with no access to me. Or another way of putting this, absolutely no due process whatsoever. So the law was broken, the Constitution was violated, and they knew what they were doing when they did it, which is why they didn't want a lawyer, they didn't want a judge getting involved. They just disappeared her and then shipped her and a US citizen outside of the country. And now that they're outside of the country, I guess what are they supposed to do? Again, they're tiny little baby boys. I mean, that's a sovereign country. We can't get them back. I mean, even though it's a US citizen that's been deported, what are we gonna do, JR? And so it's a pattern that's developing here. And we've already gotten to the citizen deportations. I probably stupidly a couple of weeks ago predicted that would be months down the line. Nope, we're already there. What do you think?
John, why are you always wrong, bro? Of course it's not gonna be months down the line. He said this while he was running, damn near. And of course, once he won, he was definitely talking about it. So I'm not sure why we think that anything that these guys are trying to do in the first 100 days, which I think is happening tomorrow, that they're not gonna do it. All the negative things, all the things that dismantle due process, that dismantle our democracy, that's what they're going after. Those are the most important things. So again, as people keep talking about, as due process is taken away, like, but it's only taken away for those criminals that we deemed were criminals when they weren't provided due process for us to determine that they were criminals. Again, just like you're saying here, this is gonna be a cooling point for folks to not show up to their things. There's so many principles, there's so many lines that get told. Yo, we just want the kinds of migrants that come to the country and do it the right way. So as they do it the right way, you're now making sure they don't do it the right way anymore. There's no incentives for this to go about this way. So then once folks stop showing up to their hearings, they'll say, look, all these filthy immigrants are not showing up to their hearings, and look, they're breaking the law. But when they show up, you say, they're breaking the law, and you send them off anyway. Detach them from their attorneys, send off US citizens. We're here. They continue to push those lines. So listen, this is the reason why continuing to act like they're not who they are continues to give them some level of cover from folks who we thought would say things as they are. So when you give them cover by saying, well, that's not really sending folks off to foreign prisons like they did with this guy that they mistakenly said they sent off. We're not really sending off American citizens to foreign countries like they said they weren't doing, because they're gonna check with the courts first before we see whether or not we can deport American citizens, or just American 2-year-old citizens. You know, those children that they said they claim they are all about supporting and protecting. No, not that either. It's harder to find a portion of any sentence of theirs that actually is based in reality and is truthful after they go back on it every time that they speak forward for this. So one of the point here though, these goalposts continue to keep moving, because if you bring this up to any of these supporters or definitely this leadership, they'll say, I thought you were going after the criminals. Vehemently talking about, we're going after criminals only. We're prioritizing criminals in this country. What was the heinous crime that the 2-year-old and the 7-year-old committed before you deported? I'm sorry, those American citizens that you deported, they don't care. They'll just say Lake and Riley and then hope that you shut up about it.
Yeah, maybe someday they could be an MS-13. You know, they're not even 13, but maybe someday they could be an MS-13 or something. Just say terrorist, and warfighter over and over and over again. And then maybe a critical mass of Americans will just sit down and shut up about it. Maybe that seems to be the goal. I agree with you that like it's difficult to find a single thing they're saying that's actually true. And I think that could end up being significant here, just in that, it doesn't matter if we can identify all the lies, but the fact that they don't even try to pretend like they're following the law. When the judicial challenges come, that's gonna make it very hard for them. Like, you know, for instance, when they're told to bring people back and then they say, yeah, no, I mean, we might not be able to, but we'll try. And then they go on Fox News and they're like, he's never gonna be back. That's probably gonna hurt them in a court case at some point. But as of right now, I mean, it's all just developing so fast, so fast. And again, as you say, like he's like, we have to get rid of the killers and the rapists. It's a 2-year-old US citizen. They haven't killed anybody. Also, by the way, aren't we simultaneously terrified that we're not having enough kids? Like you're shipping out the next generation. Like don't we desperately need them? Aren't you talking about baby bonds or baby bucks or something? Why are you getting rid of the goddamn babies then? Or maybe this is part of Make America Healthy Again. You know, the kids got cancer. Well, if you get rid of US citizens with cancer, then the amount of cancer in America goes down. That seems to be the only way he's actually trying to make it seem artificially that we're any healthier.